I'm great. Live, I'm here. So first, I want to start out by thanking God for the opportunity to put me in as far as giving me another promotional chance here with the Bears. I also want to just thank George, and Kevin, and Ryan for entrusting me with the responsibility, but also the challenge to lead this football team as well, which I don't take lightly, and accept everything that comes with that. And so ready to roll. So I started the day with our first team meeting, talk about our players as far as plan of attack moving forward. All right, so before we talk about X's and O's, before we talk about the game plan for San Fran, I talked about making sure our house is right to begin with. So the initial goal is to unify this football team. They're about in the same accord, moving in the same direction, speaking the same language, and attacking together. So no more divisions. As far as the outside noise, we ignore it because it doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative. What matters is our daily approach, us working together, and execute when it's time to go execute. So I started with that first. Then I talked about just got to do a better job being a more disciplined football team, on and off the football field. Talked about the penalties. Preached that penalties will all kind of boil down to a lack of focus. So one play at a time mentality. After that play's over with, hit the reset button, get back in the huddle, go do it again, and over again. Post-snap penalties. So lack of attention to detail when it comes to techniques. So we're going to do a better job as coaches to coach it the right way, demand it is done the right way, drill it properly, and our guys go execute when it's time to go execute. And I just talked about as far as our identity as a football team. I say this initially, always believe in and stand by it. Football is a violent game. It rewards those that play the game violently. So physical at every position is going to be our mentality. And I started this week against San Fran to kind of prize themselves and built a great job throughout the years of building a roster that kind of fits that mode, of being aggressive in all phases, of kind of a attacking mentality. So it starts there for us. That's a non-negotiable. I also talked about majoring in 3 abilities. That's coachability, that's accountability, that's dependability. That's all of us, myself included. Not above coaching, not above accountability. We'll get that done together. And then lastly, it's about being resilient. Right? No matter what happens, nobody cares what's happened before, what happened in the future. Overcome it. Fight through it. So it's not about the event, it's about the response. So respond the right way, together collectively, and go attack. Let's talk about as far as the staff. Obviously, I'll be on the field now. I will still call plays from the field. We have elevated Chris Beatty to the offensive coordinator role, and so he will man that position. I'll work closely with him and the rest of the staff, mainly he and Simo for the most part, but our entire staff is involved. I said it before as well when I became the OC, it's not a one-man show. It's not about me. I am in a leadership position. The role of a leader is to make people and situations better. So my goal every single day is not about what is right for me. It's about what's right for this football team. I don't care who has an idea or a suggestion. It's about us moving in the right direction collectively together. On the defensive side of the ball, Eric Washington will call our defense. I have tremendous trust and faith in him. And I am not a micromanager. And so obviously we'll be around to be involved with their game plan, but I trust those guys 100% to do their jobs with excellence. And HT will still man our special teams. So there'll be the changes we'll have as far as the staffing goes and obviously where I'll be if that question comes up. I'll probably be the first interim head coach or head coach in history to stay in the box. I'm not going to do that, so I'll be on the grass. I thought about it, though, but, it's probably too aggressive to begin with, right? Also, when it comes to moving forward, right? So I know there are a lot of scrutiny, talk, dialogue about what is happening at the end of some of these games. I am not exempt from responsibility in those actions. We're a team, and I believe in doing things together. So we get rewarded together. We also get criticized together. So we will have an internal process we'll go through on a weekly basis to prepare ourselves for those opportunities. And on game day, we'll execute. Don't panic. Do a great job communicating. be poised in the moment, make a decision and go roll with it. That's the thought process. All right, and lastly, I want to thank Matt Eberflus. I said something very similar when I took over for Shane. We live in a results-driven business, right? And that's what we all sign up for. And when things go well, people sing your praises. When things don't go well, they ask where you're headed. That's part of it. But I do want to say how much I appreciate him for, one, giving me an opportunity to interview to begin with, pursuing me through the process because I had some other opportunities, and he was pretty adamant about staying in contact with me about being a part of staff, for elevating me to the OC position. And then also I had a chance to visit with him on Friday before he left the building. And so I appreciate the advice that he gave me. I'm not going to share that advice, so don't ask me because I'm not going to tell you what he said. But I do appreciate that conversation, which he didn't have to do that. And so he was great to me. When I had a chance to become the OC, he didn't micromanagement and tell me what to do. He obviously said in my meetings, we had some dialogue on the same page. But excited about the opportunity. Welcome the challenge. But it's all hands on deck. And again, it's not about me. It's about this football team. So every decision made is going to be about what's going to be best for this football team moving forward. And, I'm going to worry about the future in the future. Worry about right now, today. Said it before a couple of times. I stand by that. I'm going to be where my feet are. And so it's about preparing us for the opportunity this week for that challenge. And that starts with our execution every single day you walk in this building. Injury-wise, I have some injuries for you, updates on Wednesday. So kind of status quo as of right now. But questions?
Thomas, when you talk
about his offensive coordinator has been instrumental in Caleb playing well the last few weeks by his account as well. How will you manage continuing that progress that you're making with him in addition to all of the additional responsibilities that you're taking on now?
Yeah, as far as our meeting schedule, it won't change. So still have an opportunity to still help run the quarterback meetings with Kerry Joseph. So I still hit those up like I did this morning. Had an opportunity to kind of talk about the previous game. And obviously on the grass, I'll still be heavily involved with that operation, individual drills, and obviously calling plays, doing practice. So a few more roles that I put on my plate, but that won't change at all.
Thomas, when you talk about the late game execution, are there things that you want to iron out with the process, whether it's somebody up in the booth telling you, hey, take a timeout in this situation? Are there things you've learned from the last couple of weeks and seeing the process play out that you think should be different going forward?
Yeah, I would say, like anything else we do, preparation is the key to success. So how we do throughout the week, we drill certain scenarios, we talk about it, we have a plan of attack, and when it's time to execute, we communicate properly on the headset, we make a decision, and we roll with it.
Kevin Warren said that when projecting it out, what they're looking for in a head coach beyond now is a decisive decision maker. In the short term, what makes you a decisive decision maker in tense situations? Yeah, so as far as the future goes and that process, that's out of my control. And so I do my best to avoid worrying about stuff I can't control because it's a waste of my time. So I can't control my approach every single day. What makes me decisive is I was raised by decisive decision makers. So my mother and my father were decisive. My older sister, Nicole, was very decisive. I'm married for 16 years to a wife who was very decisive. And so I surround myself with decisive people. And I believe in just the process of how you go about things and how you communicate and how you execute those when it's time to go execute.
Thomas, I'm curious about how your weekend went from the time you found out Friday that you were being promoted to the interim head coaching role until now. Like, what have you been doing to, prepare for all this in a very short amount of time?
I take it moment by moment. So I obviously had a conversation on Friday when I sat down with George and Kevin and Ryan about this decision being made. Didn't know about it, which I think is what Kevin mentioned before, is the importance of a proper process so you respect people the right way. So there was, no heads up given or was a heads up needed. But I think being able to have a chance to get the information, address the staff briefly. I'd already planned to go home. So my first question was, do I have any obligations this weekend? My flight still leaves at 4 o'clock. And so I haven't seen my family in a month and a half, haven't been home all year. And so I had a chance to go home and spend time with them, which is my motivation, my support system. And so I had a really good time with them. Tried to relax as much as I could, but you can obviously guess there was some thoughts going through my brain that probably weren't there before. But excited about the opportunity. Always ready to spend time with the family. Came back late last night. Woke up this morning ready to roll.
You mentioned, Thomas,
How do you sort of get Caleb back in the right headspace for the final stretch of his rookie season? How do you restore order in his world when he's had 3 weeks of total commotion?
Being consistent. And so we all have to make adjustments. Life is ever changing. It's not an excuse. Or make excuses. So I think being able to communicate effectively, to be on the same page, to continue to find ways to demand that we do things the right way, but also taking it one play at a time, one day at a time.
Coach, are there any tangible things that you put into place when you talk about bringing the team together, make sure you pull in the same direction and eliminating any divisions? Are there any tangible things you put into place with that?
To me, I think it's about just a daily approach and being able to echo that message within every unit. Obviously, myself manning up the offense, Eric with the defense, AC from a special team standpoint, so we're all on the same page, saying the same message. But also the best teams are player-led football teams. So when it comes down to it, this always has been, always will be a players league. So getting those guys to understand the importance of the family and family business, staying family business. Kind of made the association this morning about being in my house, and I have some phenomenal neighbors around me, but they have no idea what happens in my house because it's not their business. And so we're in this thing together. We communicate together. I want those guys to understand that they always have a doorway and a path to come communicate with me. I will not just do whatever they ask me to do. That's not how it works. But every thought process is about to be able to understand how to resolve problems, how to make people in the situation better so we can get a better result.
Thomas, you mentioned the divisions like Herb was talking about. Did you notice divisions in the locker room? Is that something you were hoping to guard against or get right away?
Well, I think naturally what happens is when you don't have success, there's division because there's outside noise. And so I mentioned this in the team meeting room, but also in the quarterback room about the importance of controlling your thoughts and having self-talk, because it's easy for doubt to seep in. There's tons of negativity outside of these walls, which is why I tell them all the time I don't even see or hear anything that happens on purpose. People send me stuff, and I delete it immediately because I really don't care whether it's positive or negative. It doesn't affect my job. And so being able to be focused on our task at hand, doing it together for each other is the overall goal.
Stick with the same captains, 8 captains. Any changes with that?
No changes with that now.
Thomas, you've obviously been a candidate for head coaching jobs before. What does it mean to have both this audition for yourself personally, then obviously the opportunity after this to be considered for the full-time job?
Yeah, so I said at the beginning, man, I wanted to thank God for the opportunity that He's presented me with, because I can't complain about prayers being answered in certain different orders, or maybe what some people might say the not ideal scenario. But again, I live every day to be at my best for those around me, and so every job I've had that's led into the past, in the future, has been based on the current work I do. So that's all I care about. I'm not worried about what happens in 5 weeks. I really don't. That's not even in my thought process. I'm focused on this very moment and how to do the best job I can for this football team to help to lead these guys the right way and go have success.
Thomas, what plan did you come up with to be able to actually kind of allocate your time the right way in the next 5 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's about not being a micromanager, like I said before. I mean, I trust our defensive staff, and I trust Eric to lead those guys the right way. I will still be heavily involved as I've been before with the offense. I trust those guys in our offensive staff to continue to give feedback, to continue to help organize. And again, it's about taking it one day at a time. So I'm not worried about what happens in 3 days or 5 days. I just have the day. So I have a little schedule printed out for me, and I go through list by list. This is this time, this is that time, and I just go moment by moment.
Thomas, you talked about not being exempt from like the late game stuff that's happened.
Yep.
Looking back at the Detroit game, what could you have done better there? What was your kind of viewpoint, your role, and how that kind of chaos in the last 30 seconds?
Yeah, so like I told the offense this morning, right, there's a lot of dialogue about those last couple plays, last events, last seconds. But I focus more on the events leading up to that, with opportunities well before that moment to end the game, to finish the game. And so, yes, it's important for us to execute when it's time in those moments, but don't neglect the fact that we had several opportunities throughout the entire game. We dug ourselves into a hole in the first half by going down 16 to zip, battled back into that game, started that drive on the inside the -1 yard line with think 3:31 left on the clock. So we had several opportunities before that to go execute. I'm going to get into the weeds of what was communicated, not communicated, because that's irrelevant. It's over with now. But definitely had an opportunity to learn from it. I don't remove myself from accountability in those scenarios.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you. See you soon.